everybody. Welcome back to Footy Chat. I'm Mark Woods. We've got Lorenzo. Can't really pronounce your last name. How are you, though, Lorenzo?
Nice. I'm all right, Woodsy. That's all right. I'm good to go. We had an interesting week in football. I think it was a bit better than some of the
Some
previous weeks,
games
at
were,
least.
some games weren't.
Some games were less good.
But let's just kick off with the recap of... the photo of the week first before we hit the recap. So the photo of the week this week.
I have chosen
the sibling match photo.
I thought it'd be great in defeat and try and pick out something from the Giants win over the Geelong Cats. Aaron Cadman had a very good performance. He's re-signed as well, and this was him kicking a goal. I love this one in particular because Jake Stringer was really getting involved. In some of the previous frames in what was effectively the same one, he was out of shot, and now he was really joining in the celebrations. So it was a good performance. Geelong played well in the first quarter and then didn't really show up for the rest of the match. But you was worthy winners there at in the Demora Hayes Cup on Saturday twilight up in Sydney. I liked us in the blue as well. We really didn't need to, but GWS clearly wanted to wear the white. So
no, I was going to say GWS wearing the Indigenous white jumper. It made sense. I actually was wondering because I saw pre-game that they were going to wear that on their socials. I was like trying to compute it. Then when I saw the game and what GWS were wearing, I'm like, oh, that actually makes sense. So
yeah, it did.
In the end, that made sense, and that actually kicks off with the review. Let's start off with the GWS Geelong game. GWS, the winners 17-9, 111 to 13-7, 85 in the end. And then we travel back to the Thursday night. Carlton, what's going on there? 9-12, 66 to 15-13, 103. I'll go through the results, and I just want to pick apart a few of them. So then 10-9, 69, Gold Coast defeated Collingwood 8-15, 63. Western Bulldogs 15-8, 98, lost to Adelaide 16-13, 109. Richmond Richmond beat Essendon 6-10, 46 to 4-13, 37. That's one we're going to discuss very shortly. Fremantle getting the Chocolates over Hawthorn 12-5, 77 to 9-10, 64. Melbourne too good for North Melbourne, getting the revenge from earlier on in the year where North Melbourne just dominated that game. Melbourne won 18-11, 119 to North Melbourne 12-11, 83. Sydney defeated my Saints 14-8, 92, defeating St Kilda's 13-9, 87, and then 12-15, 87 defeated West Coast 9-7, 61. That was Port Adelaide over West Coast. I think the first touch of base, let's go to Thursday night. Carlton, they've really dropped off this year. Their expectations for the last 2 years, they haven't lived up to it. Like, the question has to be asked, if they're going to stick with Voss, they've got to have that plan to surround him with the right people.
Yeah.
And have complete faith in him. If it's not going to be Voss, then I think it's time to get rid of him. Personally, I think they should keep him for a little bit longer because he could build something.
He's contracted for 1 more year, isn't he not? I'm pretty sure
I'm not sure, but he's showing glimpses of like brilliance, but I think the players aren't quite up to that level.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think some contract talks are to blame for that, but we'll wait and see on other aspects of that. The biggest talking point going into the round was this game: Gold Coast, Collingwood, and no team has won the premiership after losing to Gold Coast in a season.
Yes.
And so, sorry, Dylan and everyone else who goes for Collingwood, but they lost to Gold Coast, and they didn't score a goal in the first quarter. They were 0-8.
Yeah, it was really 2.5 quarters, really. They were a bit asleep at the wheel, and then they did come roaring back. Once they hit the front, I was a bit worried. Oh no, here they go.
But
Anderson really stood up,
Anderson,
and I feel like
brilliance.
a less mature Suns team might have folded over there in that sort of situation, but this is a much more experienced Gold Coast outfit at the moment who really wants to prove that they belong up there towards the top of the ladder. Never played finals, of course. You would think they would make it from here. If they didn't, it would be a bit of an end of season disaster. But a very strong performance and a very important performance for the Suns and where they're going to be going forward, winning the Pies by 6 points. Collingwood's kicking didn't help them, but we'll get to that later.
Well, no, Anderson with a goal of the week nomination right at the death of the game, and I saw that. I'm like, that's goal of the week. That's
Yeah.
an easy goal of the week nomination. Like, to run from behind the circle,
Cool.
collect the ruck, run on, handball it, collect the handball, and kick and goal, all while not slowing down or like composing yourself, was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it
So,
was. It
yeah,
was.
well done, Noah Anderson, for that goal there. Moving on to the Saturday, Western Bulldogs, Adelaide. Really good clash to see where Adelaide were, because an away from home win, they're dangerous, but I think the finals experiences of some of the other sides might be more than Adelaide's surgence into finals.
Yeah, they haven't made finals under Matthew Nix. This should be the first time. Again, they're another
they're in
team
the
that
top
really
four,
should.
and they could realistically stay there. You
Yeah,
got some
they could.
sides that are going to challenge, but they're pretty much cementing themselves, especially with wins away from home. That's going to do a lot.
Yeah.
And
I agree with what you said there with their with the lack of finals. I think for both Adelaide and Gold Coast, they're probably a year or two away
they need that
at the
finals
early.
experience first.
They need a few finals performances. We've seen that in the last few years.
And
probably Brisbane most notably making their way steadily up.
Talking about finals experience, sorry about that. GWS and Geelong, and GWS are just showing that they are not to be slept on. That they
shouldn't be.
Going to be a team that I mean, Geelong have been there quite recently, 2022, 2022, and they're always there or thereabouts in the finals. So GWS are coming good with that experience. Richmond Essendon, the only thing I'm going to say is one of the worst games of footy.
Worst game of the 18-team era, maybe, probably.
Games of footy I've ever seen since St Kilda Sydney back in 2005.
That's right. Yeah.
So, combined score of 83 points, 46 to 37. I'm just going to quickly go St Kilda Sydney 2005. Not the prelim. I don't want to remember that, but it was round 10.
Well, my dad was referencing the Richmond Adelaide game from, I think, 06, when Terry Wallace
it wasn't round 10.
Put together another super flood sort of situation, and they beat a Crows team that was going to make a prelim final. A home prelim final too, if it was 06, yeah. So yeah, in the 18-team era, there really hasn't been many worse games. And me and Josh were on the podcast the week after the Roos and the Eagles played in Bunbury, and we thought that game was bad. Well, apologies to those two teams, because I think even they were pretty comfortably ahead of where this game was at on the Saturday night. This was the one time where I think you were glad that this one was not on free to air TV. There's been a lot of debate about that regarding Saturday football, but I think this one people were happy. Yeah, that Ryan really didn't deserve to be on Channel 7. Yeah, it was just it just wasn't. It was well.
So it was 2008.
Really, the second quarter on, it was just not good at all. It was 08.
2008. The scores were 6-15 to 6-13. So the score in this game was 6-10 to 4-13. So it really does fall in that area.
Yeah.
Fremantle Hawthorn, didn't watch the game. 12-5 to 9-10. Fremantle are coming good, and they are finding themselves in the 8, which is all you can really do.
They've won what, 7 out of the last 8? Yeah, you don't want to be that one team missing, because we know there's 9 teams that are better than everybody else. And whoever's the 9th is going to be kicking themselves.
Melbourne Hawthorn, Stock Standard game. Melbourne getting the revenge win after round 2's. I think it was round 2's.
Yeah, it was the round 2 game when North Melbourne beat them. Yep.
Sydney, in what I believe was a really good game, St Kilda Sydney, I was expecting a big loss, so I'm quite happy with only losing 5 points. Still not happy with losing. However, it is what it is. And then Port Adelaide defeated West Coast, and I think the only thing I can remember from this game was seeing the clips from Harley Reid to Jason Horne-Francis.
Yes. That was the most memorable thing that happened in the entire match.
So that's our quick review of the round. What did you learn from this round of footy?
the Suns and Crows. Well, I don't think they'll win the premiership this year. You won't want to play them particularly when they're at home. I think in the finals. We'll see whether this Geelong loss is indicative of anything. We have the easy run home, so I don't think it'll matter too much. But it's certainly a good win for GWS. But one thing it does do is that that 4th to 8th is still very log jammed. Everyone's on 44 points there, and the Bulldogs are 1 game back. So there probably won't be much difference from perhaps a top 4 finish and just missing out on finals.
We got to remember the Gold Coast have a game in hand.
That's right, they do. I forgot about that.
So Gold Coast are on 44 points, and they play Essendon in a game after this. Technically, it's still in the season, but it'll be after the season.
It's after the season was supposed to end.
So that is going to be
probably looking a bit more and more interesting now.
That could be like for them to make the top 4.
It may decide a top 4 spot. We were a bit worried at the start of the season that game might mean literally nothing. But with Gold Coast good season, particularly off the back of the win last week, it might have a bit more meaning.
So let's just have a look quickly at the horse race that we've got, and we'll see basically the ebbs and flows of the season. Now's the time it comes into good play. Yes, there was a bit of a break, but you can still see, teams started to look good or not. Yeah, the middle of the sorry, what just happened? I don't know, but we'll wait and see.
We're still streaming? I say streaming, we're still recording.
Yeah, we are. We're still live. It was just a presentation issue. Sorry about that. We're just going through and seeing season to date on. There was a lot more movement because early season, the weeks could have gone ebbs and flows, and you could have gone back and forth quite a bit. Teams
it's about when the groups have really formed.
So this was after 12 rounds. Hold on, let me get the 12 round one. That's after 12 rounds. And then after 16, there we go, 12 rounds. And then after 16 rounds, you can kind of see the groups have formed. And they've just drifted back, and they've really defined themselves to the point where we've got this. So the teams at the lower left-hand corner are teams that I don't believe are in it.
No, that's out of the frame.
Literally, they're like at the rear of this field. They've broken away from the pack, and they've really stretched themselves out now. So it's no longer this packed formation that it was. I think Collingwood, they've just found themselves getting closer to Brisbane after the loss. Adelaide have got themselves out of the pocket that they were in. As I quickly just don't mean to do that. I meant to do that. There we go. So I can actually see what it was. So you got Geelong going to the fence. Hawthorn have moved right back. So the top 4 have really moved away, in other words. I think that's going to be the biggest case. Gold Coast are there because they've got that game in hand. Then you got the other 4 fighting it out for that 6th, 7th, 8th spot at the moment. Obviously, stuff can change. Gold Coast could fall into that group. And it's going to be very interesting coming into the last few rounds. After round 17, so yeah, we're round 18 now because everyone's had a bye except for everybody's played 17 times except for Gold Coast. And they'll play later on, but it's a really good indicator now as to where teams lie. And I'm excited. Yes. What do you think about it?
It usually has been through the season. That's a fairly accurate way. The Suns with that game in hand is that sort of wild card thing, but we're really beginning to put these teams into their own certain boxes. So we've got the teams that are too far back out of it at the moment, and we've got the Swans and Port Adelaide, which is sort of their own separate thing, and now we've got that next group of 5 and the next group of 4, with the Sun sort of somewhere in between because of the game in hand. So I think that's a fairly relative articulation of where this season is at the moment. Perhaps a bit less competitive from previous seasons, but we should still have an interesting a finish in terms of who does and does make it into the 8, or who does and doesn't make it into that top 4 spot.
I'll start with Sydney just to have a look at their run home. They have North Melbourne this week, so you'd almost pencil in a win there. GWS at NG Stadium, so that could go either way. Then you got Essendon at the SCG. You should pencil that in for a win. So there they've got Brisbane away. They've got Geelong at the SCG, then West Coast away. So they're a team that can win all these games, but they're also a team that could lose the games.
Yeah, and they're pretty much going to need to win of the 6 games they have left. Really,
they have to win them all.
All 5 of them at the very least, but probably all 6.
They have to win them all because they are 2 games out of it, and percentage.
Yeah.
So in essence, they have to win 3 more games than everyone else. I'm just going to quickly look at what Adelaide's run home to see how they look. They've got Hawthorn this week in Tassie. Then they've got the showdown against Adelaide. It's an away showdown. Then you've got Geelong at GMHBA. Then you've got Fremantle at Adelaide Oval. You've got Carlton at Marvel. And then you've got the Gold Coast Suns at Adelaide Oval. So to end the season. So, I mean, if I was to put money on which one would be more likely, I don't bet on footy. If I was to say which one I think would, I'd be going Sydney.
Yeah.
They're both they've both got tough rounds ahead, so it's going to be a very interesting one to see if either team make it. But looking back at the round of footy and looking at that, we've got to go to the wall of shame, and I think it's no surprise these 3 teams, especially after Collingwood, a goalless first half, 0-8, finishing with 8-15. Richmond with 6-10, and Essendon, the biggest of them, with 4-13.
Yep, they really stand out on your wall there, and rightly so.
As we quickly look and see, there's still 3 teams that haven't made it. It is Fremantle, Geelong, and the Western Bulldogs. So well done to them for not making this far without actually getting on the wall of shame. I mean, looking at this round of footy, Geelong scored 13-7, Western Bulldogs scored 15-8, and the Dockers scored 12-5. So they are really living up to the name of good kicking is good football.
Yeah.
And what's your Volcanzo for this week?
This week, Woodsy, this one's actually been I've been thinking about this actually over the last couple of weeks. The real sort of antagonist for this a few weeks ago, it was about 3 weeks ago, in the Suns. It was the Suns Giants game on a Sunday afternoon. The Suns looked like they were wearing West Coast jumper, but that wasn't their Volcanzo. The Volcanzo was, at least linking into my rant this week. There was very.
Hold on. If this is going to be what I think it is, this is going to be my rate or hate as well. So I'll let you continue now. But I just want.
I'm not sure if. Well, we'll see if we're on the line on the same thinking. I'm not 100% sure if we are. But in that Suns Giants game about 3 weeks ago, Jed Rolder had a shot on goal, and he did not really put in any effort in his goal kicking attempt, and off just a few steps he went to kick it, and then he went through for a point, even though it was basically point blank range. And my Volcanoes, we see this keep creeping into football every now and then, where a lot of players, I'm not certain that they take kicking goals that seriously. So this is a sort of link to bad kicking is bad football, because we saw that with that sort of crazy moment a few times in Essendon Richmond, which was the other reason why I was going to bring up, where I'm not sure whether it's. I feel like where this stems from is they do goal kicking practice at training, but I'm not sure how much they're taking it seriously there. And if you're not taking the practice that seriously, you're probably not going to take that much into a match as well. So this is a frustrating thing, because we know how much Aidan Box said it several times last year about how important kicking a goal is, and also just kicking sort of in general play as well is very important to your ability to win games. It's basically, you can make football very simple. Clearance work and kicking accuracy, a goal is the 2 things that are going to win you most games of football. And if you're behind in those 2 categories, you're probably not going to win many games. And it almost doesn't matter what level of football is. So that's sort of Jed Walter thing from a few weeks ago, and also seeing the Essendon Richmond game. it just reminds me so often that I'm not sure that footballers take their kicking a goal very seriously. And the best goal kickers of all time, it didn't matter how far out they were, they always took through a very clear strategy, very clear way of their way of going about it. And it's different for everyone, obviously. Jesse Hogan has those weird, his weird run up, but it works for him most of the time. So it's just something that frustrates me because it's the easiest part. Well, it's the easiest part to sort of. There's not much complication. It's not like holding the ball where there's 5 or 10 different things to think about at the one time. You just have to kick the ball through these two goalposts. Obviously, you're not going to do it with 100% accuracy. No one can do it with 100% accuracy, but you can put in 100% effort all of the time. And I reckon a lot of the time, these footballers, especially those who aren't jettisoned full forwards, don't put in a lot of too much effort. Either at training, which is where I think where most of this stems from, and and obviously in game as well. So that's my volcano for this week. Put in a bit more effort, footballers. We pay you good money to kick the ball around. Do it properly.
Well, I'll be honest, it wasn't the one I thought it would have been.
I didn't think it would be.
However, it does raise a good point about, when you get 6-10, 4-13, and 8-15, and you don't kick a goal in a half a footy, and you're on top of the table. You're on top of the ladder. Surely you'd be thinking that there's something to be done there. However, my rate I hate this week is to do with the umpiring. And we've going to be discussing this quite a bit, and it stems from the Carlton-Brisbane game. There were 2 plays in that really confused me. There was the one where the player kicked the ball almost straight into the umpire.
Yep.
The Carlton player ran into the umpire because that's where the ball was going. And then it was play on, Brisbane kicked a goal.
Brisbane kicked a goal, yep.
Do you believe that in that circumstance it should just be blow the whistle, it's a ball up?
I guess in that particular circumstance, probably. Given that's been the main reason for the term. I mean, the kick wasn't particularly amazing. If there was, it's going to be a tough one because I think if you were to introduce something like that, it would have to be a bit more based on interpretation of moment. So if there were more players around where that ball fell, even if it wasn't where it was intended to be, you'd probably be like, no, play on. But because the ball pretty much went straight to the Lions player because of the other end.
I believe that in that circumstance, it's a player has been taken out of the play because of the umpire's position, but the ball was in that area. So the ball's getting kicked into that area. That player's got the eyes for the ball. Bang, he's taken out. He could have taken a mark. It could have been something different. I'm not using the other. There was the other umpire interference, or the umpire not interference, but umpire. What's
contact?
Umpire contact. In a ball up, which
Adam Terra.
You should know the umpire moves. He throws the ball.
That one I'm not.
So,
I'm not sympathetic with the players there because the umpires do that in every single game of football. They throw it up and they back out that way. So that one I don't have any sympathy for the players there because that one they should know. In sort of more general play, it's a bit harder.
I'm not using the Chera one as the example for this. I'm just talking general play. Get out of the corridor because that's where the ball will go 90% of the time, or 70% of the time. I don't know the true statistics, but I'm like, if you're going to be standing there, chances are the ball's going to be going there at some point. But the other one I have, and I was watching it on socials today, it could have been from some time ago. I have no idea. I think it was Matthew Nix talking about the last possession out of bounds. Taking that one more thing out of the umpire's thing, it's just like, no, you kicked it out of bounds, you handballed it out of bounds last. Yeah, it's a free kick the other way. It'll be a lot more fast flowing or free flowing.
If you had asked me to rate or hate this 5 years ago, I would have given you the same answer, which is yes, that's what we should be doing. I've been wanting this for, I reckon, a good 5-6 years now, whenever the SANFL and the AFLW first brought it in. So yes, I'm with Matthew Nix. I'm with this. It's really worked in the SANFL. It basically completely reversed them in terms of the scoring among state leagues. They were the worst, and then they became the best when they introduced this particular rule. I love the
get away from like kicking it into space near the boundary lines. That will go. If you say it's a free kick, irrelevant of your intention or your
Or
intent.
whether or not skill error. Yeah.
It's no, you kicked it last. It bounces out. It doesn't matter if it does the. I mean, there's been so many times where it's been that 50-50. It could have been a kick into space. It lands on the Toyota logo on the wing, then bounces somehow out of bounds, and it's given. You know, so yeah,
It's just gonna be a lot easier. And I think they almost officiate it as if it's last touch between the
yeah.
arcs. With occasional carve outs for skill errors, but it would be just
Nah,
much simpler
I'll just
if
go
they
anywhere on the ground if it's last touch. The only ones that, like, if you get tackled over the line, I'll let
yeah,
let that go. That's the boundary thrown. You
and
then
the
let
spoil, that sort of
it's
thing.
the spoils the it. You let the interpretation of it's a handball or a kick clearly define it. If it's a in play or if it's a pack around the boundary line, and it's like okay, it's been taken over. Then it's a boundary thrown. You'll reduce
Yeah.
the workload of the rucks as well,
Yes.
which will be, I think, a great benefit. It'll introduce a new tactic to the game, but I'm all for it. I am all for
Yeah.
it. Trial it in the
I've been there for
in-season
about
cup
5 years.
tournament in a couple of years' time. Bring it in pre-season. Just introduce it and see how it changes the game, the dynamics of the game. But I think it'll be for the best.
Yeah, I agree. I've been wanting that for some time now. Like I said, if you'd asked me that when I was in year 9 or year 10, I would have given you the same answer. Yes, please. We should be doing that.
Moving on and talking about 5 or 6 years ago, I'm pretty sure there's going to be
Oh,
something a bit further back from that.
Oh, it's way further back this week, Woodsy. Sometimes with these history lessons, I sort of have a rough idea of what I want to do, like several weeks in advance. And sometimes I find something on social media or in the media that I go, "Oh yeah, that's interesting. I want to tell this story." And this one is definitely in the second category. We're not going back 5 or 6 years, Woodsy. We're going well back before you and I were around, the 1880s, because as you've been aware and you've been keeping an eye on for some time. The British and Irish Lions are in Australia, I think, at the moment, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Playing a few. They've got there's a couple of Australia tests coming up. Is it this week? This week
Yep.
at
They played Adelaide Oval,
MCG.
I
They're
think.
at yeah, they played the Adelaide Oval on Saturday. They're going to go to Brisbane and Melbourne. They're going to play at Marvel Stadium and at the MCG. I've been hearing a lot of advertisements, but as part of that, I found a article written in the ABC about the time that in the I think it was what year was it exactly? It was in the 1880s. Was it 88? Yeah, 1888. The British and Irish Lions came and for another tour, all the way back in the days, and they didn't just play rugby. They played a lot of rugby, that particular team, but they also played a lot of Australian football, which is interesting and sort of a reminder. And we sometimes forget this, that in those 1800s, we basically could have all been playing the exact same version of football, but there were differences on an opinion on whether or not you could handle the ball, obviously, and more physical elements, which basically ended up in a split. One side continued with association football, soccer, and the other side had rugby, which devolved into league and union on its own. But interestingly, that this clearly they were close enough together that when the British Lions came to New Zealand and Australia in 1888, they played some Australian football matches. Some of those were against random country towns, which they were to beat. I think they beat a few of them, but most of the time it was against teams like the top teams of the day, so Carlton and Fitzroy and Port Melbourne and Norwood. They lost to them all. Interestingly, though, they did beat Port Adelaide, who was second in the South Australian League in 1887 and 1888. So they were a good team, and they beat them at the Adelaide Oval on the 10th of July, 8 goals to 7. So that's a weird thing that happened. Add that one into the list of Port Adelaide's worst moments. There's been a few of those, losing to a British Lions team at their own game in South Australia, whilst already being a top two team in the that South Australian league. So very odd thing that they did. The British team, they played a bunch of rugby matches against a bunch of different clubs, but they also played a lot. They played a lot of Australian football as well. See if I'm pretty sure I had a number here. Let me just try and find it. Um, yeah, so it lasted from the tour in 1888 lasted from like it started in April and ended in October. There was an Australian leg in June, July, and August, and they played When they went to Victoria and Australia, they only played 2 games of rugby union. Everything else, the other 18 games were all Australian rules, which was interesting. Again, some of those were against random country teams. Some of them were against the top VFA and SAFA it was at the time. Teams of the day, including a memorable victory against Port Adelaide. The reason why they did this, by the way, it was all for money. A pretty simple answer that is usually the answer to these sort of things. Why they play a different game, just they were in Australia and they needed things to do on this long tour. It was obviously a long way to travel in those days. Still about 15 years from the plane being first plane taking flight. So they needed something to do, and they played Australian football. Interestingly, they played 19 games, won 6, drew 1, lost 12. From that Australian football. Who they beat? Bendigo. There we go. Here's the list. There's Port Adelaide, Horsham, Ballarat, Sandhurst, Clayton. So against all the top teams of the day, Essendon, Norwood, Port Melbourne, Fitzroy, South Melbourne, Carlton. They were pretty convincingly defeated, but they were able to knock off one top team in Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval in 1888. They won't be doing it this year. The British and Irish Lions, they're all focused on playing the Wallabies in a couple of weeks. That's the history.
You never know. You never know.
You never know. They might be able to take on give Carlton a close match again, maybe.
Now, I should actually have Woodsy's history lesson here. I've got one as well that I want to bring up now because it could potentially be a first. Now, we're talking about the grand finals. Last year, I brought up the fact that
yes, in
the lead up to it, I wanted either Brisbane and Sydney to be in it because of the 2 runners up. So it's not the first. It wasn't the first time the last 2 runners up played off in a grand final, but we've got a potential for a first.
Ooh.
If it is Brisbane and Collingwood, we have the first, I believe, ever, and I've had to actually go through and actually research this and look it up, and I couldn't find it. I'll do some more later on, and I could be proven wrong if anybody can find it. But it could be the first where we've had consecutive runner-up, like back-to-back runners-up grand final, and then immediately the year after of the last 2 premiers. So last year was in 2022, Sydney won. In 23, Brisbane won. 24 was Brisbane, Sydney. The 23 premiers were Collingwood. Last year's premiers were Brisbane. So if they play off, it'll be the first time ever that it's a useless stat to kind of know, but in that particular order.
If you've got your head around that.
Last time 2 reigning premiers faced off in a grand final, would you happen to have a guess on when that was?
Last 2 reigning.
Yes.
So the last 2 reigning premiers. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Because you need to have, so you can't have, so if any team goes on a run, so the Melbourne's and Brisbane's from 3 in a row, you can't really look at any of those because obviously they won them in consecutive years.
The last time a grand final.
I feel like I'm gonna know it.
You will know.
Was it 2011 Geelong Collingwood?
I like your thinking because Geelong 109, Collingwood 2010, Geelong won in 2011. However, there has been one more recent than that.
Recent? Okay.
Because if you go the year after 2011, Sydney won, Hawthorn won in 2013, and then in 2014,
and they played again in 2014. Yeah, they did.
So there's been quite a few. And then if you look at 1998, you had North Melbourne won in 96, Adelaide won in 97, and then in 1998, Adelaide faced North Melbourne. So there's been more. It's been a pretty big surprise that you've actually had these amount of anomalies or these strange things of, you've had the last 2 face off, and it's been more and more. And then I believe before last year, the last time 2 runners up faced off was 95, because in 93 Carlton lost to Essendon. 94, Geelong lost to West Coast. And then in 95, Carlton faced off against Geelong. So, little bit of fun fact there. Hopefully, unless it's Brisbane, Sydney again, because it,
That'd be something.
funnily enough, they're the last two runners up as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So unless it's a repeat Brisbane Lions Sydney Grand Final, I'm going for the Brisbane Collingwood one just to keep this pattern. I love to see these little strange quirks pop up every now and then, and hopefully this could be the first back-to-back kind of thing where it's been the runners-up then the premiers. But on the topic of grand finals and who can win the flag, it's time to do who can and can't win the flag. So who have you got?
I'm gonna ask if you can take off the Fremantle X. So we'll finally put a one there. I've been sitting on it, not really wanting to put anyone off for the last few weeks, but after a good performance against Hawthorn, I think it's only fair that we at least, for now, use at least one of those. I may very well use my second one to put the X back on them, but as for now, that is that's the subtle change for me this week. I have forgotten I'd put the one on Fremantle in the first place.
Well,
so we'll finally, I think realistically, one needed to be done at some point. And like I said, I might put the X back on them in a few weeks, but
I feel like I feel like the only other X I might take off is Sydney.
Yeah, I'm not ready for that just yet.
Go to mine. I'm not going to do it just yet. I'm not going to do it just.
Yeah.
I think I've still got it on actually. Yeah, I don't have. I've never put it on them.
Yeah, you have.
I think it's one of those things where I might have taken it off, and when I'm like, oh, there's actually a chance still. Because I've had taken 2 X's off. I can't remember who I've taken them off. I'll have to check the records. But
double check.
Yeah, I think those are the ones that I think they're still a sniff. There's still a chance, and I believe if they make the 8, that they're going to be a contender. So I think that right there, I've got 10 teams that can, and I think that's right because I think I ever had 9. No, I reckon I would have had to have taken off Sydney and Fremantle. Those would have been the 2 teams I took it off just as a wait and see the Chautauqua-like run of Sydney coming. So they won the title.
That would have been it.
And they retained the title. So if they can keep this title, if they retain the title to the end of the home and away season, then they're going to be bang. Like, just watch them and then lose week 1 and they're out. But
they've got North Melbourne this week, and I will be cheering North Melbourne in that sense because the following week the Roos play Geelong, so we're a chance to grab the belt back, but we need North Melbourne to do a job on Sydney first this week.
And we're just going to look at the week ahead. Thursday night, Essendon take on GWS at Marvel Stadium. Should be a GWS win here.
We think so. Essendon have a bunch of Thursday, Friday night games. Less because they're particularly good, but mostly because they're also playing good opposition. So we're seeing them a lot. But they're not really the highlights of Thursday and Friday night football, even though they're on it a lot.
So yeah, I'm just having a look at the year ahead, I should say, just to see the Thursday night round. So
that's a Friday night game against the Dogs next week in week 20, round 20.
Giants are going to be doing all right.
Well, the Giants are on there a couple of times. They've got the Dogs as well in a couple of weeks on Thursday night, so we get to see them a bit more. Essendon there again on a Friday night, round 22, and Thursday night again, round 23 against St Kilda.
There's quite a few of them for Essendon and Carlton, even though they're not really a shot at finals. But Essendon look like they're out for this year and next year, given the injuries, and it's unfortunate, but it's football. Moving to Friday night, we go up to the Gabba, Brisbane versus the Western Bulldogs. I think this will be a finals setting game. If Bulldogs are able to win, they keep their dream alive. If they lose, I think it might just be having other teams breathing down their neck. It might be a bit too hard for them to.
Yeah, well, they're outside the 8 at the moment, so if they were to lose this game, they would be dripping at sort of losing grip on that sort of dropping away. That was the word I was looking for there from that top eight. So for an exciting finals race, we really want the Dogs to win this one, or have the teams around them not win as well. So to
But
keep that
talking about the excitement
game
of
going.
dropping away, we've got Hawthorn and Port Adelaide. If Port Adelaide lose, I feel like they're going
Yeah,
to drop out. Hawthorn,
yeah.
though, can need to cement themselves because it's not a given that they're going to make it. And talking about dropping out or trying to keep
Well, quickly,
their
I'm going to
dreams
say
alive,
Hawthorn fans in particular will be disappointed that this game. I'm pretty sure this game's down in Tassie and not at the MCG.
this needed
And
to
it's
be at the
Saturday at
G.
a one.
This
It's
needed
Saturday
to be at the
1:20.
G.
It needed to be. That was a missed opportunity.
But talking about dropping away, Port Adelaide, there's also Sydney and North Melbourne. Sydney need to win this to keep their dreams alive. And it should be a percentage game. They need to have a good percentage boost in this game. Carlton, Melbourne at the MCG on Saturday night. Don't know what to expect from this game. It is at the start of the
Anything?
year, you would have gone, this could be a finals like preview. Both
Yes.
teams could have been sitting 5-8. You look at it and you look at it now, they're like 12th, 13th. Okay. Look like we're going to be tuning into the other game, and then you look at what the other game is, and you're like,
We might take football off on Saturday night.
so West Coast play Richmond on the Saturday night, 18th versus
I might just
17th.
get sleep and
Richmond
I might
coming
just
off a
sleep for
win.
that.
West Coast coming off travelling against Port Adelaide. We move to Sunday.
Sleep through that one and wake up early so I can watch the World Match Play darts that'll be on in the early hours of the following Sunday morning.
And talking about Sunday, we've got our last extra time cup matchup, and it's the real.
I'm slightly nervous
it's the
about
real
this one.
extra time cup. Let's be real. It's Geelong St Kilda
Yes,
at GMHBA. It is 4th versus 15th. You guys should do it, but you never know.
we should do it.
We
But
did it. We beat you at Marvel earlier.
it
I
needs-
feel like GMHBA is going to be the difference, though, and it should be a good percentage boost for you.
it should.
We've just got to hope and pray that we at least are in the game at some stages, and yeah. But
It would be a win for St Kilda if that was the case. Geelong should win.
Sunday,
We'll see.
almost twilight, 3:15 start in winter.
Late afternoon.
Let's be real. That's kind of twilight because if it's dark by
Yeah.
the time it finishes. First versus 8th, Collingwood versus Fremantle. Collingwood need redemption. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this game is Collingwood need to redeem themselves after last week. They need to put on a statement, and it's Fremantle that are going to have to suffer.
Yes. It was a strong fight back from Fremantle last week, obviously, in that game against Hawthorn. And if they can build some of that momentum into this game, it should actually be an interesting watch, this one, at 3:20 on the Sunday.
And the last game of the round, and it was, funnily enough, we're going to go full circle now because you mentioned them at the start of this episode about the inexperience of finals, but it's Adelaide take on the Gold Coast Suns, and 3rd versus 5th. If Gold Coast win, they break themselves into the talk about top 4. If Adelaide win, they kind of cement themselves there. This is going to be a true test for both teams.
It should be. This is very exciting.
If you want to play finals and you want to play deep into September, this is the game you've got to win.
Yeah.
But in saying that, that is all the time we've got for the Sirens is about to sound for this episode. What are you doing? What games will you be watching? Any local footy?
I'm always down at I'm following the Nodwatting Lions season, as I've said in a few other places. They had a win during the week as well on last Saturday, beat Bayswater at home, which was their first win at home, as their previous 2 wins had been away. They're playing the Whitehorse Pioneers literally down the road. It's sort of the closest team to them, so it's the closest to a rivalry game in a sense, which should be interesting. So yeah, that's where I'll be there on Saturday morning. Come back. The Saturday games are massively interesting. The Hawthorn Port Adelaide will be interesting just because it's Hawthorn Port Adelaide, and that's turning into a.
What time does that game start, and where is it?
That local footy match is 10:40 at the home of Whitehorse Pioneers. What's it, Springfield Park or something like that?
Okay. And
It's
if you,
not,
if you,
it's
I
not
mean,
far
if
away
you wanted to,
from.
you could just, just make a trip down. It's not that far from Springfield Park to Malton Park, where Blackburn will be
Yes.
taking on Vermont. I know
Oh,
the women side are playing as well. I think they're playing Montrose. So it's going to be 4 games of footy on this day on the one oval, I believe.
oh
So
wow. Okay.
10:40, the women play Montrose. At after that, it'll be the Rezzies play Vermont. Then the seniors play Vermont. Then the under-19s start at 5 o'clock under the lights. So it's going to be a
Dang.
great day of footy at Blackburn. If you are in the area, I suggest you come down because 2 teams that you talk about the rivalries, you talk about the local rivalries, Blackburn, Vermont. I don't think there
Yeah.
is any better in the EFNL than those 2
Yeah.
premier
That
sides.
one. That one's
So
strong.
if you are in the area, venture down. You'll probably see me on the boundary line taking photos once more. I'm off the Canberra duties. My dad's returned, so I'll be back on the camera. And yeah, excited to do that. So we'll wait and see what happens. There might be a few more local footy snaps next weekend, but
It might be. Yeah.
hopefully it's a positive for both of us. But until then, we'll see you next week.